Welcome to this Car Pod.
I'm Kenan.
I'm Filippo.
And today we're going to talk about cars. We'll start, as always, with the news.
Ooh, the news.
I want to begin with a discussion of the new Toyota 4Runner, which I have been around.
You've reviewed it.
I didn't review it because I didn't drive it.
Right.
We're not allowed to drive it yet. But then I drove the Land Cruiser, which I'm not allowed to talk about my driving impressions yet because this podcast is going up before the embargo lifts. So I've driven this powertrain in a car this same size. I just haven't driven literally this car.
And you can't talk about driving this powertrain in the car that's the exact same size yet.
Have I driven this powertrain in any other car that I can talk about? No, because the Tacoma was also under embargo. So needless to say, I have some thoughts that I will not be sharing.
But can we talk about
Thank
the
you for the
4Runner?
teaser.
Can we
That
talk
really
about the
gets everybody
4Runner
going.
anyways? All right, this is one of several Toyota SUVs that are off-road focused and all the same size.
Yeah.
Explain that
The
to me.
4Runner launch was the most bizarre thing I've ever been on in my life. The 4Runner and the Land Cruiser launch at the same launch, okay? The 4Runner is 194.7 inches long. The Land Cruiser is 193.8 inches long.
Wow,
they have the same engine. They're both off-road focused. They have the same platform. The 4Runner offers a third row, the Land Cruiser doesn't. The 4Runner offers a roll-down back window, the Land Cruiser doesn't. The 4Runner offers off-road trim levels, the
got a
Trailhunter and the
snorkel.
Pro. The Trailhunter has a snorkel, the Land Cruiser doesn't. The Land Cruiser, nonetheless, is minimum 15 grand more expensive.
Wow.
I see I couldn't be paid to purchase a Land Cruiser at this point. Some people say they think the Land Cruiser is better looking. I disagree. I find the Land Cruiser to be like overly styled and kind of cartoonish. And I think this looks great.
The 4Runner does look great, especially in Trailhunter trim or TRD Pro trim. I don't
Even the
understand
Limited
trim
I thought
part.
looked pretty nice.
I haven't seen one.
What's the logic?
I have no idea. It is one of the most baffling things that I've ever experienced in my life.
So do they just think because people are used to paying more for a Land Cruiser, they'll pay up for the
I think
the
they're
brand
hoping
prestige?
that people will pay for the brand name. But I think that anybody who thinks will
Logically-
have trouble doing that.
Is the interior the same,
No,
more or
the
less?
4Runner has a cooler interior.
Like less nice but cooler, more utilitarian.
I'll tell you this, the Land Cruiser interior looks very generic. It does not say the words Land Cruiser anywhere but the floor
The
mats.
old Land Cruiser also didn't, though. 200 series.
But that wasn't. This is
It's a very
the
different
Land
truck,
Cruiser is
agreed.
now being pitched as this like
If you're cashing in on the brand,
Right.
so
Right.
you'd want the brand
you
to be...
should use the brand.
only the floor mats say Land Cruiser, and you could take those out and put them in a 4Runner if you really wanted to feel.
God, imagine.
So 4Runner starts at what? What's like the
I
base
assume
4Runner?
44. Right now it's about 42, and I assume they'll jack it up
All
a
right,
little bit.
Land Cruiser starts at
58, and that's for the base model, which has cloth seats.
what is the like Trailhunter 4Runner trim expected to be at?
I assume low 60s. Right now it's like 59, but I assume they're adding some stuff. It's a new model, it'll be low 60s. So there'll be that overlap there.
And if you want a 3-row Land Cruiser, the Lexus GX550 exists.
Yeah, it does exist, and that offers a V6, and the Land Cruiser doesn't. So there's a better Land Cruiser, which is the Lexus GX550. There's a cheaper Land Cruiser with
is
more
this.
seats, which is the 4Runner, and then there's a bigger Land Cruiser, which is the Sequoia. And it is also not that much different in price,
Right.
Because the Sequoia starts around 60 and the Land Cruiser starts at 58. So
So I feel like there was a time when the Land Cruiser was like the flagship model.
Right.
And,
question.
and people
No question.
accepted that it was smaller than a Sequoia, but
it was
better
the
built,
one to get.
nicer. But now they're all in the same chassis.
it's hard.
Is
hard
it like
to-
a 25-year car anymore?
Right, that's the thing. It would be hard to look at the Land Cruiser and say, this is like the pinnacle SUV, so we buy it. Like, it's a 4Runner with a different body that is worse, and that is more expensive, in my opinion. And I
Well-
will not talk about my driving impressions yet.
Correct. We're not breaking any embargo here.
Although,
Can we talk about the 4Runner in more detail? Because it just got released yesterday, 2 days ago.
Yes. Turbo 4
it looks good.
465
We can all agree it looks good.
pound-feet of torque.
Wow.
The internet, of course,
Is there one
saying
engine or two?
Only there are two engines. There's a base model engine, and then the one I just referenced is the top.
Is
the
it
top
iForce Max?
Yeah, so the base model has the
AKA
non-hybrid
hybrid.
version of that same engine, and then then you can go up to the hybrid one. The internet is, of course, a buzz saying this is they've killed the 400. Now
This looks great.
I
agree
when I
with
was
you.
a kid, they came out with the 4th gen, and I remember at
It
the
did
time
look different than
the
third gen, yeah.
forums were just new, and the internet was a buzz saying they had killed the 4Runner,
Right.
and every previous
Right.
4Runner was the last 4Runner.
That's that time every time a new car comes
Yep.
out. Enthusiasts are fickle, admittedly, and I am also very fickle. When the new M3 came out, same thing. You grow to like it. I have.
I read
and
a
it's a very
quote-
capable.
I
truck.
read a quote from someone who was arguing against this, saying, "In the BMW tagline is the previous generation BMW, whatever it was the last generation, whatever it was, doesn't matter." And boy, is that true.
This looks great. I mean,
think it looks great.
the new Tacoma looks great. It's very similar for front end design.
Yeah.
But it looks like a shrunken down Sequoia in a good ways.
I think it looks better than the Sequoia, to
The
be totally honest.
Well,
rear
I have a
window looks
question.
great.
Can you get camo cladding like you can on the Sequoia?
No. So did I tell you? So the
no.
the TRD
You're not gonna
Pro
buy it.
4Runner
You're gonna have
still
no
has-
interest.
This TRD Pro 4Runner still has the same camo seats.
Oh.
But the cladding is just black.
But they realized it was
Someone told them, like, guys, I think you took this a little too far.
Yeah.
like you're right. We'll take the cladding off.
Wait, can we talk about the design a tiny bit more? So
Yeah,
the kind of truck area side window, very third gen 4Runner.
Yes, they brought
reminiscent.
that back. The side
Looks great.
window, second gen 4Runner. They brought the side window.
Sorry, yeah,
The
second gen
rollover
4Runner.
side window
Yep.
is a first second gen 4Runner
Yep, you're right.
thing. And that'll be cool.
Drop down rear tailgate window.
Yes.
As has always been true in 4Runners, which is
And
great.
not also, the Land Cruiser does not have that either. Neither does the
it
Sequoia.
has a pop up though.
It has a pop-up, but the Land Cruiser no longer has a split tailgate.
Yep. And then can we talk about the fact that the iForce Max badge just screams Duramax to me? I see that and I'm like, oh, we're looking at a Chevy.
Yeah, but dude, it's an iForce Max.
Right.
Okay, so that's the 4Runner. Next up, the new Corvette ZR1, which Chevy previewed yesterday. They
Yeah, this
announced that they're going to do it. They announced no details.
Correct.
Beyond that,
They say the unthinkable is coming.
the unthinkable. I will think about it right now.
Yeah, we could all
Talk about it even.
can think about it.
It's going to be a more powerful Corvette.
Right.
It's not too unbelievable.
Okay, so the regular C8 has 500 horsepower, more or less. The Z06 has 670. People are saying that the ZR1 is going to have 800.
Wow, not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The C701 was broadly considered to be insane and too much power, right? That was like the general
He's like a
takeaway.
big C7 guy. Now
He won't stop
I
talking
really am.
about it.
I don't know when this happened, but I remember when you went to
Yeah, it was
Dubai or
wild.
whatever to see it.
Yeah.
And it was wild.
Yeah, that's right. I went to Dubai to see the C701. That had 755 horsepower.
Okay, so we got to
at the
go
time.
up. to
It'll go
800.
up to
Yeah.
8 something. I wonder if it's going to have some sort of electric assist.
Right, because there's a Corvette E-Ray.
The E-Ray does. The architecture's there. All these exotic
Right.
cars with
They
800
just
horsepower now do.
Put it together. They just have to put the two together.
Right.
And my hope is that it continues to use the Z06's flat plane crank V8.
That's what they're
and
saying.
then puts the hybrid, and that kind of gives
That
you
would be very
everything
cool.
that you want. It would be kind of fun. It would be unthinkable if they slapped like a supercharger on it, because supercharging a flat plane crank V8's not that common. That would be kind of cool. Or if they, turbocharged a supercharger and gave it hybrid power, that
Ooh,
would be
the Volvo
almost
move.
like Volvo, yeah. That would almost be unthinkable. I have to agree. Then I would agree with the
Yeah.
the tagline.
Here's a question. What will be bigger, the wing or this table?
Oh, the wing.
Oh, the wing, without question.
What will be bigger, the wing or Filippo lying down flat behind the wing?
The wing. I'm not that much taller than
The
the table.
MC12, I think the MC12 wing is bigger than you.
Believable.
But, that's that's like a clown car.
Current GT3 RS wing is definitely larger than Filippo and me. I think it's longer than I am.
How overstyled do you think it will be?
I think it'll be fine. I think they've done such a great job
They've
with the
done a
C8.
great- the C8 does look
one question that someone wrote in and it didn't, and we're not going to answer, it wasn't even a question. They said, talk about Corvettes. And I was thinking, which is my favorite Corvette? And I think it's the C8.
E-Ray? Z06?
No, just like
Regular?
in general, the C8 of all the Corvette
all the
generations.
Corvettes.
It's just great. It's a great car. I get that it doesn't have a stick. There are certain other ones that I've loved over the years, but it drives fantastically. It's so good, and I think they all look pretty good, with the exception of like the rear end is a little big because it has to store a golf club.
And right.
I mean, really, that's why.
Yeah, the C701, my recollection of that, again, too powerful for the street and kind of hard to drive on a track. But mid-engine fixes a lot of that problem.
Yep.
They can add more power
Yep.
and have it still be functional.
Yeah, I think that'll help. Plus, you got to assume it's going to be all-wheel drive just because E-Ray is, but who knows?
What do you think the MSRP will be for that car?
The Z06 apparently starts at 115 and gets
it?
up to like the 130s. So you got to, this is like a
Is
150.
it really 115? Is the Z06? I'm stunned.
Good
That
luck
seems like so
finding
much.
a
You think it's low?
YLT.
It kind of feels low
For the
for
performance.
the performance and like that
But
engine's
that's always
amazing.
been the Corvette thing.
That's always been the Corvette thing. And they're still selling for pretty good money.
Yeah.
Like they're like
Over
150,
MSRP.
well, perfectly equipped and everything. So you think that this maybe starts at 150, 160. But with
Got
the
it.
performance level, it's going to be amazing. It's
What
going to
was
do
the
0 to 60
C7?
at 2.3. C7 ZR1?
Yeah.
That I don't know. C7 ZR1 apparently was 125.
All right,
I mean,
so yeah,
there's
150.
enormous inflation of the prices of these cars because that's what the Z06 now costs.
Yeah. Also,
Chevy
big saver
realized
performance,
if we're going to go mid-engine, people are going to pay up, and boy, have they.
Go big.
It was
Yeah.
a good move by Chevrolet.
To go mid-engine.
It kind of was, yeah.
Well, also, yeah, the amount.
It's
They
very
needed to.
successful.
Yeah.
It's been a great move.
Although I
Man, do
don't-
you remember the vitriol when people found out that like it's going to be a mid-engine Corvette?
No stick, mid-engine.
But
I
it's a very
think
good car.
there was
Still
also
holds
a lot
golf
of
clubs.
excitement, and it has just delivered tremendously well.
Yeah, it's a great.
Although
car.
I don't see that many around.
What?
Legitimately.
Do-
Do you have eyes? Do you like
He only
just do you
drives
drive
the-
like this, just like looking at like your hands or something? Because
Yeah.
like they're everywhere. We go out there right now.
Office
I'll
in his
find you
house.
for it.
That's all he does. I agree with you.
They're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
It used to be a trope in our friend group. Where it was like, oh wow, a C8, because you saw them every single.
And
night.
because the first ones you saw, you were so excited, like
Well,
when
you know-
they first came out,
you know-
and then eventually it became a Corvette.
You know why he's not noticing? He's just looking around for C7s. He wants to manifest
C7.
C7.
This isn't cool.
I think my favorite Corvette's the C6 ZR1 is my favorite.
That is a very cool
I
car.
really love those.
C7
cars.
ZR1 is also very cool.
It's too much.
C4 Grand Sport, however,
Oh,
is the
love
greatest
that.
Corvette
Yep.
of all time.
It's up there.
C4 ZR1 is a really cool car. That engine's
Yes,
awesome.
Split window is probably the greatest Corvette.
Yeah,
one of the most.
Yeah, the
beautiful
reality
cars
of it is the C2 is the C1's probably the most iconic. The C2 is probably the coolest. I think.
and it was designed by a man named Larry.
Anyway,
Filippo,
Yep.
what do you got for news?
All right. The EQG.
That's
as
what
we've
they're calling it.
No, that's not what they're calling it. As we've long
are
been
they
calling
calling
it colloquially, this is the electrified G-Wagon.
Yeah.
What do you think they're calling it? They announced the
They're
name
not
this
calling it
week.
EQG?
No.
Oh my god.
that's what they should call it.
G500E.
Close. Kenan, what's your guess?
That was gonna be like kind of my vein. Yeah, G some number that won't mean anything.
It is the G580 with EQ technology. No, I'm not making that up. That is what they have announced they're calling it.
Is it fully
Wow.
electric?
Yeah. We know no other details. Just they announced the name this week.
The G580 with,
EQ technology. Yep.
You're kidding.
You're fact checking this, but it is true.
The G580 with EQ technology. That is absolutely
So
embarrassing.
they came out with a naming scheme where they added EQ and then the size of the car and then SUV or not SUV.
right.
Broadly.
Which in itself was
So
insane.
there's the EQE sedan, the EQE SUV, the EQS, et cetera, et cetera. And then not the EQG. That's insane.
Well, I think they've realized the naming scheme is stupid, and so they're trying to ditch it here. But calling it G580 with EQ technology is
wild.
one of the most embarrassing things that I have ever seen.
That implies to me that they think that it won't be popular because people want like the V8 nature
I
of
think,
the G-Wagon.
I think what they've realized is they can't take they need to start with G because G-Wagon
Yeah,
is
you
the
can't-
thing, and so they couldn't steal
You
that
can't say
from it.
Equalizer G-Wagon.
It would be just stupid, and so that's what they're gonna do. But wow, that's just wild. Nonetheless, I am tremendously excited for this.
Yeah, it'll be super cool.
Yeah.
Also, why not?
This is one of the first really desirable EVs that I've seen because
Oh,
the G is a desirable car, but
Yeah.
at 12 miles per gallon or whatever, you start to. I don't care if you can afford it. You
Sounds
just
good,
start
though.
to become. It's a problem, and
Well, I'll tell you what, though, G-Wagon owners don't care.
they don't
about that.
care. But like, I think it's also such an in-your-face, annoying car, and then to also be getting 12 miles per gallon with a V8 that makes 600 horsepower. It's just like for me personally, I look at them and I just think this is not how
As
I
an
want to
owner.
live. As an owner,
But like, think about it. Like with the regular engine, under power, the back end squats massively, right? Like that's what the G-Wagon does when you're accelerating.
Yeah, that's
Imagine
63.
with electric
yeah,
power.
well, if it's a
gonna be
580 though,
wheelie.
it's going to have less power than the 63. But I am curious to see how it's going to go, and I think this will finally
It will
make
be super cool though.
this will finally make the G a little bit acceptable to own.
Oh, interesting. So that's what you're hoping for, that you can buy one.
I'm not going to get one anyway, but I do like it. I think I'm really.
Oh, wow.
This is the only electric Mercedes I've been excited for, aside from the EQS, which I also love.
You know that the new 993 Turbo is like tagging ones kills bugs fast. With an electric version of the G-Wagon with that flat window, now there's something that'll
Kills bugs fast, and the windshield will break.
and the
very
windshield will crack.
We are now moving on to the market report.
Excellent.
I would like to start by discussing Cybertruck real quick.
Yeah, that's it.
Of course.
We've auctioned 3 now.
And we've sold one.
And we've got another one on the site right now. We've sold one of the 3. And bidding so the first one bidding ended at 158 off probably a 105 sticker.
Some of that,
Same
yeah.
deal on the second one, 145 bidding, 105 sticker. The third one sold for 146.5 with no reserve.
No reserve, always the answer, first of all.
Well,
Yeah,
that
agreed.
proves it because
Yep.
the no reserve one got another
week
$1,500 and they're both in the same place. So what do you guys think? Personally, I think that I'm surprised to see it's not selling for what I thought it would. Remember, Hummer EVs were 300.
But Hummer GMC has produced about 12 Hummer EVs.
Yeah.
They claim to be producing the first
But
1,000.
there was a
They still
lot more
haven't.
excitement about the Cybertruck. So even though demand was...
Yeah, but they
But
produce them.
supply of Cybertruck is also. I mean, there are a lot of them. We see them.
There are a lot of
pretty
them.
regularly.
There's a
and Hummer
few
EV
around.
took more time to get your hands.
Definitely.
on.
But demand has got to be way higher for
I think that
Cybertruck.
Tesla scared off some of the early flippers from
Yeah.
flipping because of their threats of lawsuits, which I haven't heard anything more
That
about.
too.
by the
Whereas
way.
with GM, it was like, I mean, okay, I can't buy another Hummer.
Well,
I mean,
GM said that they would void the warranties if you flipped them, and nobody believed that.
Yep.
And I don't know if it came true, but I think at this point GM would be thrilled just to have a vehicle that has a warranty on it because they've sold so few of them.
Early buyers didn't have to sign that. That also came out partway
later.
through the year.
But so the Cybertrucks at 146 are surprising to me because these Hummer EVs were 300, which is 3x the sticker. Rivians we were selling for 135, which
Yep.
was double the sticker. This is only like a 20% boost. I have a couple of thoughts. Definitely one of them is what you said, that people were a little afraid, both sellers and buyers, because
Right.
buyers were afraid that Tesla was going to brick them.
Yep.
Sellers were afraid that Tesla was going to ban people, which of course is laughable because I mean, the concept that Tesla would ban somebody is just absurd.
They were also going to pursue some monetary relief, which wasn't going to happen.
Which I think isn't going to happen. I think the other thing is, though, like the market has just changed so much from when people in 21, when everybody had cash, people were taking their PPP loans and spending 140 grand to get a Rivian.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, that is
Now,
true.
like and especially the people who buy Cybertruck were probably a lot of like crypto people, real estate people who did really well in those years, who probably would have spent way over, and now things are not quite where they were, and so they're not.
I do wonder about overall demand for these trucks. They're polarizing, and they're not a truck that fits that many use cases.
I guess, but
So
people
like, I wonder if demand is also a little bit lower than what we.
That may be
thought.
true, but it is unbelievable to me how many people ask me about this truck. As like the resident car guy, like in my neighborhood and all that, like no
They
one
think
wants to
it's
talk about
cool,
anything else.
Not because they want to buy one.
Maybe, but the fact that people are discussing it as cool, that alone creates demand because there's a lot of people who want to drive around in the coolest thing. I will say I see them
Every day.
very frequently now. I'm seeing
awesome.
2 or 3 of them every day.
Yeah, I will also say it's a different times, like you said. If you want just a electric pickup truck, you have the Ford Lightning, the R1T, maybe the Hummer EV-ish,
That's a
and
good
the
point.
Chevrolet
Actually,
one's coming. And you can lease a Rivian R1T for like $600, $700 a month. It's no longer unattainable.
That's
you
so
can just
fair.
walk in and
Imagine
get
if
one.
this had been the first one.
Yeah, would have been wild.
They screwed this up. That's a really good point. The novelty of having
I
an
don't think they
EV
screwed it
truck.
up, to be clear.
I think they
They
screwed
needed
up
to get Model 3, Model Y out, and they did.
Yeah, but they announced the truck
But
in
they
19.
promised the truck was and they didn't
They announced a
even come close.
Roadster, and
Well, yeah.
That's a great point. If they had come out with the truck when they said they would, I think it would probably be a lot more desirable. These days, we've already gotten accustomed to all these electric trucks with Rivian, et cetera. It's just not as exciting as it was, even though it looks insane. That's the primary excitement. The durability, the capability, the off-road capability, we've seen it.
Yep.
We've seen it with Rivian. We've seen it with Lightning. We've seen it with Hummer. It's not as cool anymore.
yeah, you're still going to attract everybody that wants the Cybertruck specifically because it's a Cybertruck, but you're not going to attract people that are cross-shopping it because they want an electric pickup truck.
Yeah.
Right.
It
But
looks cool.
Too much availability.
It is cool.
Superchargers are open to R1Ts and Lightnings, etc. now. It just has changed.
That was also
It
a
looks
surprise.
it looks ugly in pictures, and you see it in person. It's just like the context is what was like.
Kenan loves
whoa.
the Cybertruck, which is
I do because it
surprising.
reminds me a lot of the Countach, and I was like,
there's a few differences.
I'm looking at the windshield on the Countach right now. It's the same plane, flat, and I think that it's.
I
Just,
think the
think
Countach
it's-
was an inspiration. I think,
yeah, for
I don't
sure.
know that they
They
would
said
ever say
that.
that. Really?
Yeah,
Does it
they said
remind
that.
me of it? Less so.
Well, I mean, look,
It's
it's
all
not a
flat
Lamborghini,
angles.
but like the point is, in the modern age, I don't think there's been a product that's been so polarizing and people have been so excited
Yeah.
about, and like,
Yeah.
and it's cool to see people excited about a vehicle of some kind. Now, of course, is it flawed? Oh, yeah, but I think that it's very.
It's cool. No, it is.
Like,
It is incredibly cool.
It's fun to see something different, like that different, and whether or not it's built like garbage or what.
It
one
is built
thing.
better than I was expecting, though. When I saw it, I thought you'd
Yeah.
be running around with those panels on there, and it would be like a kid's arts project. It drives like a car. I mean, it feels
Yeah, it
like a
drives
normal
great.
vehicle.
Right, and
everybody's
easy,
talking
easy
about it.
for some of us anyway to park.
Everybody's talking about it. The drawback is I am surprised at the market situation. It is also worth pointing out, by the way, we haven't sold a Cyber Beast.
Yeah, Cyberbeast might be. Was one auction somewhere. I don't remember where. and I had
that
looked at
has
the
one.
result. Yeah.
Or that had one, yeah, like Meekum or something that ran one. I think that would be more interesting. Maybe the real money people would be holding out for the ultimate one. Why
Yeah.
would they get the less than ultimate one?
Right.
But
Also, Tesla emailed all earlier reservation people saying late Q1 or early Q2 to
Yeah.
take delivery. Like they're just building the trucks.
They're
So,
building
and
trucks.
also, given all of that, 30K above sticker isn't nothing.
so they're building these. They're going to get all the orders out. Q1,
No,
Q2.
but they're building. They're coming
yeah,
out.
and you're
They're-
right. 30K above sticker is nothing. So they are doing
What other
production
cars
well.
right now are selling 30K above sticker?
Yeah, right. That's a good
Right.
point.
It's a very, very good.
None. Literally none.
Very, very few.
Okay, give us another market report information. Kenan, why don't you give us something?
So we had quite the result this week. So as a former Ferrari F355 owner, this one to me was surprising. So this car sold. It's a 1995, same year as mine. But Rosso Corsa, all the 95s were 6-speeds. They're all manual through
I have the
1997.
correct red.
Thank you, Filippo. But the more common red, some of us would say.
I actually
Red
like it
tan. But what was surprising, this car was TMU, so true mileage unknown. This car had accident history. This car needed service work. It had like no service documentation, and it still sold for 75.
And it had a rebuilt title.
And it had a rebuilt title. It feels like the floor on the 355 has shifted dramatically.
Yep.
And so it was just wild to see one like to sell for that, because I would have been vaguely tempted if I thought it was going to be like 50, 55. Like it's like that. Like you can almost put up with the pain for that kind of money, because the car wasn't very expensive. But for 75, like I paid 83 for mine in November of 2023 or 22 rather. So
Yeah. The market is changing on these. The market
Dramatically.
has really fallen in love with the 355, despite its issues, which are well documented, well known, well discussed.
but become a lot more justifiable as the car increases
Yeah.
in value.
So, I mean, nice
service is fine
stick
if-
GTSs are 250, 300 cars. And at that point, you start
Right.
to think to yourself, I don't really care about a $20,000 engine out.
Right. It doesn't matter when I'm not putting 25 or 30% of the value in the car in one
right,
service.
Right. To be fair to the 355, it is a beautiful car.
Well, it's beautiful. It sounds amazing. It feels exotic. It is special. It comes from a very important era. There aren't that many of them relative to the models that came after. It's the last of the old school. There's a lot of positives
Yeah.
with the 355.
In the lineage of the mid-engine Ferraris,
Standard production mid-engine Ferraris.
I think it's the most beautiful. More beautiful than Dino, more beautiful than 458. It is just gorgeous. Now, I don't think that about the Spider, but the cars, I like the Spider a lot. I like the Spider a lot, but the cars with
Yeah, that
the,
toupee doesn't do it for you.
it doesn't. No, the cars,
the top up.
I think that this line, the line on the BBC pillar, I guess it would be,
Yeah.
going back down the car, is important to the overall look. But even as a Spider, it's a absolutely beautiful car, and those
It
wheels
is.
were it.
Yep,
They
but
were
those
it.
Speedline. They made by Speedline. Those wheels were no
Anybody
question.
who swaps wheels on a 355 is
Yeah, I've seen them with 360 wheels, and it's like, yeesh.
You don't understand.
You don't
Those
get it.
people
You
don't
clear.
get it. Oh God, they're newer and bigger. Yeah, I mean,
What happened was they cracked these, couldn't find a set, and we're like, 360 wheels are cheap. I'll slap those on.
They had
But
curved
regardless,
DUI.
I was just
Quite the
stunned.
result.
Like I would have put money that it was going to sell in the 50s, not 75. And so the seller, hats off to him.
I agree with you. And actually, this goes back to the point that you made last week, which was these cars are getting like less attainable.
Yeah, I'm happy I owned
Obviously,
one.
75 isn't like we were talking about F40s and stuff, but like
Right. And to be clear,
this was a 40 car when I was not that long.
to be clear, I sold mine for 112.
You said the market does not.
which, by the way, was a strong result at that time.
Very incredibly strong result, because mine had a lot of miles.
And then this one brought
60,000 miles.
125.
And this one, which had a genuine fifth of the miles that my car had
Yeah.
on it, it was, I feel like I did well, and I think that I sold well. I'm glad I owned it when I did, but yeah, I mean, you wonder where 355s eventually settle, because it's not like, unlike the F40 or something like that. This wasn't that limited in production. They made quite a few of these, so like I do kind of
But
wonder.
I think
but it's
finding
special.
nice ones with sticks, it's going to become harder and
Well,
harder.
that's-
People modded them. They did dumb
Sticks are the
stuff.
most common, to be clear. To over 2/3 of the production of 355 are manuals.
Yeah, but what ended up happening was when the dollar and euro. This is something that I've really started to hone in on with air cooleds, and it's true of Courier GT also. When it became favorable to ship cars, Europeans came over here, and they took all the sticks and they took all the coupes, And the reason that almost every 355 that comes up is a convertible, and a lot more F1s come up than they should, given the production numbers, are because a lot of those cars swam. And I have a suspicion that
I love that expression.
and I have a suspicion that if you actually were able to pull the registration data, what you would find is that a good chunk of the remaining 355s in the U.S. are convertibles and tips, is my guess, more than they should be. And that's teased out. I mean, look at these. How many of these? This is 9 cars. What is it? 7 of them are convertibles. I mean, that wasn't the. I promise you, 78% of production was not convertibles. You get the point. I think the Europeans stole our cars.
In the U.S., I believe it was the most common model. Like, they produced more Spiders.
I think
than
that's true also.
else.
I think the U.S. was already convertible biased, and then the Europeans came and picked off the good ones, which they also did for air-cooled and drove up air-cooled prices.
Maybe.
And they also
although
did
I see a lot of Euro coupes and GTSs being imported.
They're starting to
because the
come
values
back
have
because things have changed in terms of exchange rates. There was a time, though, when the dollar was
Maybe, yeah, I can
tremendously
see it.
cheap, and there was a. It was advantageous.
I
to
can see
Europe.
it. I think things are shifting back the other way now, given also that the exchange rate is basically
Let's
even.
go get some U.S. cars, bring them back. We don't even have to conform them. We just have to pay duty. Problem is, duty's now expensive on 355. They were paying. They were 40 grand cars when they were shipping them over.
Europeans just killing it.
All right, Filippo, give us your market report.
All right, can we talk about wagons?
Yeah.
I was thinking actively the other day. So we've sold a couple. We sold a Panamera Sport Turismo recently, a Taycan Sport Turismo, whatever they're calling it, and a bunch of other wagons, E63, E55 wagons.
Yeah.
They sell well, right?
Yeah.
Is there a single car where the wagon version is not more valuable? Single performance car.
Where the wagon is
Single
not-
car, period, in the used market where the wagon is not more valuable. I can't think of any.
That's an interesting.
Like, legitimately, I'm thinking about this. For an equivalent car, etc. Because, like,
I just randomly typed in wagon. We sell a lot of wagons.
all right, that 525i Touring that we had was a full E39 M5 drivetrain swap.
Right, that doesn't
way more than
count.
that car would have cost as a sedan. Not a good example, though.
No.
But scroll back down.
Are there any wagons?
But this one, the 528.
Right.
Some are the same. Some are
no,
equivalent.
a 528 sedan is $3,000.
Some are equivalent. More or less.
E40. Yeah, E40.
E40 is a different car, but like, you know, how much is a Cadillac CT-SV sedan? Much less than a wagon.
You know, it's funny that they bring this up. I made this point one time to a guy at a meetup who had bought an E63 sedan.
a 2017 330i xDrive sedan
I agree.
is a $12,000 car.
I made this
the
point one time-
wagon is 34.
I made this point one time to a guy at a meetup who had bought an E63 sedan. He said he couldn't justify spending the extra, at the time, like $4,000 new for a wagon. And I was thinking to myself,
Mistake.
your wagon's gonna be worth double.
Yep.
When you go to sell it in 8 years, which he was in that situation. He was like, I can't believe my sedan's only worth $14,000. And I'm like,
Yep.
well, if it was a
Should've
wagon,
bought
it
a
was
wagon.
50. Yeah, you make an interesting point.
But I truly am
Always
trying
get
to
the wagon.
right. Like, is there an example that disproves this? I
No.
really cannot think
And
of one.
even if there is an example that disproves it, the point is made.
Yeah.
Generally
Buy
speaking,
the wagon. So
always
everybody
get the
that's
wagon.
considering buying a car that is offered as a wagon,
Does the all-road count as a wagon?
yes, and it is much more valuable than the regular A6 sedan
Yeah,
or
the
A4 sedan.
A6 all roads from that era are worth 4. A6 sedans from that era are worth whatever you can pay the guy at the junkyard to take it away for you.
That is accurate. There's really like no exceptions, which is if you're buying a new car, if you're in a position right now, whatever car it may be, get the wagon version.
Yeah,
It will pay you back.
Sometimes the wagon is more expensive though, and
Worth
then
Is it also just as an American perspective?
Yes,
because
because
there's
it-
such a
it-
limited number of
it's
wagons
limited,
here
yeah.
anyway.
It is a solely U.S. story,
yeah,
Right.
It's limited.
but it's such a better car in general.
I agree.
There's only 2 cars I can think of where I think the sedan looks better. Even.
Volvo S60.
Yep.
Of course, you two both own wagons. So
Correct.
Both
Yeah, but he's
Mercedes
not wrong.
wagons, too.
What's
I'm
the
not
other one?
S60 was the one that was actually coming to mind. I added one in case I missed an obvious one.
He's an idiot. This car, the sedan looked the Legacy.
The wagon looks better.
The 04-ish Legacy, the sedan looked really
All right,
nice.
Outback SUS.
On the subject, that was a interesting car. On the subject of wagons, Kenan, you wanted to talk about this one, and I loved your take on it.
Yep. So as Filippo had alluded to, we had this 2001 E39 525i Touring with a complete E39 M5 drivetrain swap. So
Yep.
manual transmissions, V8, limited slip differential. I think the guy even went as far as he put a lot of work into the interior as well. Put M5 gauges, M5 seats, which he had redone redone and everything. Had the Alcantara headliner put in. Like put a lot of detail into this car,
And as a result,
and then chose aftermarket wheels.
Well, he also supercharged it and modified it extensively beyond that.
Yeah, he chose to modify.
By the way, it then sold after. It didn't sell at auction. Sold after. We don't publicly reveal what those prices are, but it sold pretty well afterwards.
I got to tell you,
my take is that if he had just done it to make it look like an OEM plus build, the factory wheels, maybe didn't do the supercharger, factory steering wheel, just made it as close to what BMW would have built.
Yep.
I think would have brought a ton more.
I think he probably would have gotten another 15 or 20 grand if the car had been totally M5 stock. If it really looked like an M5.
Agreed.
Which is funny because he could have taken it to that point and didn't. With that said, he did do incredibly well. I mean, this is obviously a lot more money than an E39 M5 sells for, a sedan, a regular sedan.
Yep.
It's, of course, a lot of money than a 525i Touring sells for. Just combining them, it's an enormous amount of work. People wanted it. People think it's cool as hell.
And it is cool.
It is cool as hell. And doing it is a lot of work, and it's awesome. And he was richly rewarded for doing the work and keeping it relatively stock, because I've seen some of these builds that have gone so far off the deep end that it's like laughable.
Yeah.
This is still pretty good, but I totally agree with you.
It
If he had
looks
done
stock enough.
OE wheels, didn't have a blower on, yellow seat belts I probably could have skipped.
Nah,
I
like
actually
it.
love the steering wheel. I hate to say it.
Really?
I love the steering wheel. I love that.
Oh,
That-
you like that?
That material is all I ever want to put my hands on.
For
that material only. I wish everything was made out of that.
For audio listeners, it's perforated leather he's talking about. The steering wheel looks like a stormtrooper.
But specifically this perforated leather, I can feel it right now, and it feels great.
Well, you can have it. I'm not putting that in my M5. We'll put it like that. But nonetheless, yeah, there is clearly a market for these cars.
As there should be.
And
So
you know,
cool.
not a lot of people have converted them. And the people
That
who
is
have,
surprising.
some of them have done it poorly. This one did it, like doing the seats and doing the LSD, like it's
Well, there's more to it than that. You have to modify the chassis in order to make it work.
and little stuff. Bumpers, you and me notice, but he wouldn't. But like bumpers.
Well, I can say that's also an aftermarket bumper.
You get my point, though.
But
Like,
yeah,
in order to do it right,
you have to. Yeah, no, it's an incredible amount of effort. So, like, yeah, but I agree. If for the people who build it the way that BMW would have. So there's one of these that was built in period by a BMW dealer in Georgia, the state, and
the nation state.
No, not the nation state, but done exactly with all BMW components, factory stuff, and it looks factory. That car must be worth an absolute fortune.
Yeah, I hate to say it. I think it would probably be better in silver, just because white was. I don't know.
White
wasn't like the color they were. If I wanted a
Le Mans blue.
Yeah, if you could. Did they sell the Wagons? Was that offered on non-Ms?
Look, sweetie, if you're doing all the work, just paint the car. You could.
But
I mean, the engine is out of it. That's when you do
I have
it.
a different perspective. I think that it would have looked more M5 wagony if it were silver or an M5 color, but it looks so unassuming.
Yeah, no, it looks nice.
It looks like a 525i
problem
with
I have
aftermarket wheels, and that's it.
The problem I have with late 90s and early 2000s performance cars in white is that white was not hot then. White is really hot now.
And
Everybody
also,
wants
they
white.
weren't good white.
No, it's incredibly rare on the E39.
And so it's actually pretty rare. So when you see it, you kind of, that in itself almost feels like a modification because it was just such a rare color. Like 360s, 996s, none of those cars are white. Like they basically don't exist.
But
and
silver.
so you always kind of wonder. Silver.
I also do think that they're like a flatter, less pretty white.
Well, they are. They're non-metallic.
Yeah, but like even then,
somehow they're flatter. I think due to age. That's the problem.
no,
he
they
has.
just don't seem
Sun
that-
fade.
Can we move on to discussing cars, things that are happening in our lives?
Sure, please start us off.
Okay, actually, I will start us off with the finest Instagram account that any person has ever found in history.
Yeah, it's such a good one.
Esso Monaco.
You wanna
So
pull it up?
Monaco is a country in France.
You gotta make some waves. Okay.
Monaco is a principality. It is not a country, but it basically is. And it's very wealthy. There's a tax haven where only wealthy people live to escape taxes from other countries.
You won't be able to go into any of the posts, unfortunately, if you're not logged in.
Well, I mean, I don't. It's not. Yeah, it's my.
Oh, boom. How about that?
Nice. You really know what you're talking about.
And
I know
in-
exactly
so
what I'm
in
talking about.
Monaco,
Just you wait.
And so in Monaco, you drive around Monaco, and all you see are supercars going 7 miles an hour because it is the size of a college campus. The entire country is, and you can't do anything. But they don't want to leave because they're getting their tax benefit. Great, so that's all good. So there's like 3 gas stations in the whole country because land is so valuable. You wouldn't want to use land to be a gas station.
Right.
This is one of the gas stations, and they've started an Instagram account where they just take pictures of all the supercars that show up, and it is
For
unbelievable.
example, a Renault Twingo with a stripe.
Well,
Keep going down.
SP3 Daytona,
SP3 Pagani.
Purosangway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just kind of keeps going.
GLS Maybach, F40,
Nice.
Chiron,
RS 300 SL,
LP640, SVJ, Veyron,
918,
Mura.
Mura.
At some point, when you keep scrolling, a Batmobile appears.
Oh,
And it is
Casual.
not. It isn't one of those like 70s ones. It is like a hardcore, giant wings, ridiculous Batmobile with Egypt license plates. There is nothing that is not seen by the SO Monaco. All of the crazy stuff is here. And it is my favorite Instagram account.
hadn't. They have 20,000 followers. I hadn't heard of this account to our friend Sam was like, "Oh, you haven't heard of SO Monaco?" And then we followed, and it's like
I went
so
looking, and they started the account like at the start of Instagram and stopped posting for like 12 years, and only 6 months ago decided like, hey, maybe we should revive this because we keep seeing Batmobiles from Egypt, and so
they're also open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
that's what they claim. Carrera GT in there, SP1 in there, people just cruising around in, Sterling Moss SLR, Enzo, no problem at all. Just an unbelievable array of ridiculous vehicles.
so cool.
Call out my Instagram. You will not follow this Instagram account because
Of course
you
not.
don't
The
like
only
special
car I care
cars.
about is that Renault Twingo with a stripe in the back of that one.
Yeah, with Lando Norris getting into a mirror, and he's like, "Oh, look at the Renault Twingo."
The French plate's no surprise. Okay, Kenan, give us something interesting. What is going on in your automotive thoughts?
Well, I big Harry Metcalf fan. I'm watch his videos. Look forward to it every time.
Best YouTube channel.
Never seen it.
Well, absolutely my favorite. No offense.
Not a joke.
No, dude, it's my favorite too. Actually, our new cars and Benz videos I really like, but Harry is they're really good.
Anyway, so Harry recently reviewed another resto-modded Porsche, which got me thinking. The recipe is the same every time. Take a 993, a 964, strip it back to nothing, and say, "Oh, the only thing we kept was this part of the A pillar," and then make it out of carbon. Make the
Gotta
engine
be carbon, yeah.
go crazy on the engine. Make it very performance focused. Make it sound very race car. Quilt the leather in the engine cover,
Yes,
the engine bay. Then find some pedantic detail to affix to. Either it's an 11,000. This one goes to 11 for the tachometer,
Right.
Or in this case, they came up the designer of the car decided that the oil filter was orange and that was garish, so he made a leather cover for it. And it's
wow.
like.
Right, like
okay.
every Singer has the fuel cap in the center of the
Yes, to pay
front.
homage to the race cars, or they have like that bubble thing under the engine cover, like it looks kind of weird. Anyway, so, and then charge 750,000 euros
minimum.
for a minimum.
Because Singers are 2.5.
Yeah.
This is the greatest point you've ever made, and I don't know why it
Well,
never
how
hit
many
me.
of these companies
How
do we
many
need?
can there be?
Because there's Gunther Works, there's Singer, obviously. Singer is the interesting one, maybe because their company is so successful, it turned into a verb. You Singerize a car.
Sure.
And for all these,
Yeah.
that's a true sign of success for companies.
But
hats
the
off.
formula is the same, and I
Formula is the same.
yeah.
So yeah, I gave you a list. It was
Emery
like,
Motorsports, Theon. I've never even heard of some of these, honestly. Strat, but like RWB, all these, it's the
all of
same
them.
basic
But
thing.
it's the same thing. It's just like, can we just leave the poor cars alone?
It's not even, to me, it's not even about leaving them alone at this point. It's just about like
Well, how much appetite does the market
how
have
much
for the
appetite,
same
and
thing?
also like we get it.
Like,
You can take an old Porsche and make it cool and charge $2.5 million, and charge. I mean, you should have seen when I reviewed the Singer. And by the way, I'm going to admit this publicly for the first time. I don't really like Singer. I don't really like the cars. I don't really find them to be that valuable. I think they're modded Porsches, if I'm being totally frank with you. Kenan, back me up on this.
I don't totally disagree. I think that they put a lot of. I do appreciate the level of
They're
effort and
$2.5
attention. But for
million.
$2.5 million, I'm taking an F40.
I drove a Singer, and it was the best $400,000 car I have ever driven.
And there was a time when they were that.
Yeah.
But not anymore.
So these are modded Porsches, and but I saw the price list. I reviewed that one and I saw the price list. You should see. I mean, it's like, do you want leather on the inside of the A pillars? $41,000. Why is it? And of course, every number is a round number, which suggests to me they made them up. Why is it $41,000? It just is.
It's a multiple of the actual cost of what it. Yeah,
Yeah.
a huge multiple.
And then rounded.
Yeah, and then rounded for why not?
The part
Somebody
costs
does that.
$1,137. Multiply that by 8, and then round up by 10 grand.
Now, some people argue that these companies are celebrating, the 911 in the ultimate way possible, taking all the best parts, putting them on the best car. Well, at the end of the day, it is a modified 911. And
Yeah.
I personally don't like modifications, so I would so much rather have a 993 Turbo S for $500,000.
I agree. Personally, I agree.
Then-
I could see why someone would want this perfected thing.
I can understand it, and you want to be different. There's something that 911s are largely very similar to one another.
And old
so
911s
I
have
get
become passe. Like every watch enthusiast in the Bay has an old
it.
911.
Take it easy. But yeah, that's true.
But it's like in order to distinguish yourself, it's not. You can't just get a 993.
Right.
You can't even just get a 993 turbo. And so like Singer is here to say,
you can't even a 993 GT2. It's like that's still not.
So
enough.
Singer is here to say, hey, this is even more special. And here's a way to like show yourself as a connoisseur even more. And I get that, and I think there's some market for that, and I think it's cool. But like it's gone completely off the deep end. And I agree. An F40. When I see someone in an F40, I think to myself, that is someone who is like legit, who's putting up with a lot, who has like real taste, who is a real connoisseur. I see a Singer, and I think this person has talked to some wealthy people who are like, you heard a Singer? Oh, you got to get a Singer. Oh, Singer. And it's like, get an F40.
Now, by the same token, those people generally who can afford one of them have the 40 already, or they've owned one in the past. But the point stands that like just how all these companies to me seem to do very similar things.
There's a lot of demand.
I am prideful of the fact that the Carrera GT has no deviated stitching, no paint to sample. No, I mean, there's like a few paint to sample cars. They're all silver. No deviated stitching, no leather air vent slats, no rear view mirror cover in leather.
Just wait 40 years.
Special seat belt. And they're all silver, and yet it's the greatest Porsche ever made. Because that is a car that is focused on driving. And I think a lot of these people focus on $41,000 leather A-pillar cover.
It's kind of the antithesis of what you like about Porsches. Yeah, it should be.
That's why I like the car. Yeah. Because it literally, it's a big FU to all the Porsche people who are out there trying to flex on each other because their air vent slats are a different color in their GT4 at a meet. And then you show up in that, and it's like, yeah, this is the real deal. Yeah. And by the way, I don't know what color my air vent slats are. Boom!
You don't even know what the car looks like from just a small portion of it. We've learned. Show Doug the entire side of the car.
The S2000 is a well-documented inspiration for the Carrera GT. You know, I said that, and people in the comments thought I was being serious. Filippo, why don't you give us something?
Sure thing. Later this summer, I'm going to Italy for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Which will be great.
Your homeland.
My homeland. I was born there, visiting family. It'll be great. But the thought came to mind of what should I rent while I'm there? Now, obviously, I will rent the smallest, cheapest car I can buy.
Right.
I can find, without a doubt. I already have, months ago.
What is it?
I don't know. It's some B segment.
Oh, really?
But that's like where
you didn't get like a true super mini?
We'll be driving across all of Italy, as I do every time I go to Italy, because it's about 6 hours. But I wanted something bigger.
You wanted something with at least an airbag. Okay.
Need a rear seats. But if I were not me, if I were Kenan, for example, what would I want to drive around Italy in?
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that our answers will differ, because I think that I still want something quintessentially European and Italian.
One of my great sadnesses is that you, as an American, you have to choose between going to Europe or driving a cool car. You can't do both. Because
in Italy, that's true, but other places, it's possible.
It's very difficult to rent really cool cars in Europe. In America, I can go on Turo in San Diego and rent any manner of Ferrari, Lamborghini, G-Wagon,
I wouldn't want that.
Tesla. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what
you want to drive around Lake Como in a Cybertruck?
It doesn't matter what you want.
Picture it. Just picture it.
Any LAX Turo, there is literally any car. Okay? It completely runs the gamut. However, you go to Europe and you go on Sixt, which is the only one that even offers slightly interesting cars.
And they have nothing good anymore.
Nothing good anymore. They've completely given all that up. And the best you can do, one time I rented a 128i automatic convertible.
Why would you want that?
What was the that was it, man.
There was a time when I went to Italy and I was offered like a Ford Fiesta and I said, no, I want something Italian. And they gave me a Fiat Panda. And it was wonderful. Is it objectively a worse car? Of course. But did I feel more Italian? Yes.
There's no easy way in Europe or cheap way. This is the other thing. Because in Europe, you can rent these cars, but they're like $1,000 a day.
But
whereas a Ferrari California on Turo in San Diego is like $85 a day.
Yeah.
It would. A little hyperbole
what is
there.
It really? What did Hoovy pay for that?
$2 something a day. I think $250 a day.
Still, you can't do that in Europe at all.
But also, I don't want to drive around Tuscany in a Ferrari California. I want a small Italian car.
Okay, so your dream rental car in Italy is the type of car they rent you at Hertz.
Correct. So I'm actually content here.
Okay.
But what would you guys want?
Your dream is to just drive around the 500 at Barth.
No, I would love like a nice the Peugeot 508 station wagon looks great. That would be cool.
That's a trash car.
Of course, but I just need to feel like I'm living in Italy. I would love an old Fiat Panda.
I want to feel like I'm living in Italy. So he wants a car that the passenger mirror has been taken off on the side of a building several years ago, scrapes all around it, but there is a
fun fact
government mandated road safety
when
vest
we lived
inside.
in Italy, the Fiat Punto that we owned didn't have a passenger mirror from the factory.
OE.
Yeah.
I have a dream that one day I will take my some car that I own in my retirement, when my kids go off to college, some car that I own, I will ship to Europe
which car?
and go on a grand tour. And my dream is to do that in my convertible G-Wagon, which I think could solve every European
It
problem.
would. It is the right car for a lot of.
Totally. It would be so cool.
Yeah.
And that is like a dream of mine, and I bring it up with my wife fairly often. Like, this is something I really want to do. And you can fly them too, and I want to do that.
I share that dream, and I have for a really long time, as long as I've been into cars.
And your car would be?
E39 and 5, of course.
Heck yeah.
God's
And by the way, you
chariot.
don't see those in Europe.
No,
it would be
I've
cool
never
as hell.
seen an M5 in Europe, in Italy, ever.
Yeah, it would
In
be a flex.
Switzerland.
In Switzerland and Amsterdam, the other parts of the
If I was driving around Europe in a Fiat Grand Punto, last time I was in Europe, they rented me an Opel station wagon.
sounds wonderful. Okay,
And I saw a dude on an E39 M5 with U.S. plates. I'd be like,
The U.S.
whoa.
plates would be pretty
legit.
California. I have been told if I do that, I have to get replica plates made because they will get stolen.
People
off
say
of the
that.
car.
Yeah. I've never heard of it happening. I've known some people who have done this, and I've never heard of it happening.
I don't want to risk.
No,
So
yeah,
I
you
would do
wouldn't.
it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so one of my favorite YouTube channels, M539 Restorations, really cool guy. He does just BMWs. My friend Ryan was over in Germany and visited him, and he gave Ryan his E39 M5, and Ryan drove around Europe in an E39 M5 on the Autobahn, bombing
The
through
only
Bavaria.
way Americans ever get access to cool cars
Is if
in
you
Europe
know
is
someone.
some.
You gotta know.
When I worked for Porsche, they gave me a Cayenne Turbo for the day, and I had a day where I had no meetings, but my bosses had meetings, and they were like, "Go get out of our hair." And I took it on the Autobahn. I got up to 155 miles an hour.
that it?
Cayenne
Oh,
Turbo.
limited.
No, Porsches aren't limited. But
know-
I just at 155, you're all set. That's,
always
that's
had
enough. You've proven everything you need to prove to yourself and other road users.
I have a belief about music that when you hear like where it was from, where it was written or whatever, it just sounds right. Like when I listen to the Black Keys in Ohio, it feels right because they're from Akron. It just feels right. But driving a German car on the Autobahn, which is what they are built to do,
Yep.
the M5 in particular,
And of course, the great
2 Series
sadness
Active Tour
is
built for it.
the great sadness is when you actually go to Germany, they all drive 1.9 liter Volkswagen Golf diesels.
I don't find this to be sad. all right. I was talking about this
for a nation
yesterday
that makes
with
people
somebody else.
wait in parking lots so that the cars can go as opposed to the people. The Germans are sad.
They are
about
the
it.
they are
Yeah.
the engineers, the pinnacle engineers, and
Built some of the finest cars
the
in the
finest
world.
cars, and they don't get to enjoy them. They are all driving around in Volkswagen Ups with a 0.
Exclamation mark.
Up
he
exclamation
said
point
it, yeah.
with a 0.7 liter engine. That's every car in Europe, in Germany, and it's so sad. And seeing a Porsche like a Boxster in Germany is like, whoa.
Man, GT350R in Germany would be pretty cool.
I think I was talking about this yesterday with somebody else. One of the cool things about driving around in Italy, especially in a rental car, is every single Italian drives their car to the max. To merge on the highway and they're 60 horsepower,
do.
they're going to red line in first, second, third, fourth, and maybe fifth gear.
It's the exact opposite
Together.
of how you drive.
Which is exactly of how I drive in the U.S. But I wouldn't want a more powerful car in Italy. I don't want to drive around in like a
You're
M4
insane.
rental.
The Italian
I want-
Autostrada
I
is the
want-
greatest highway
right,
system
and,
on the planet.
and I want to work to get there.
That's insane.
I feel strong about this.
A memory that is still burned into my mind from 2013, driving that BMW 128i in the right lane of the Autostrada, getting
Well, why were
passed
you going
by
the right lane?
because
You were
there's,
getting
there's
passed
no one
by,
on the road.
by certainly a smart car.
No,
Somehow that made
I-
it to 120
Getting passed
miles
by
an
a
hour.
GT3 RS, going what had to have been 160. Because the great thing that
than
no
you
one
go.
really knows is the Autostrada is the true Autobahn.
Yeah.
The German Autobahn is very special because there are de-restricted sections, but there are
And
very
it's legal.
few de-restricted sections, and there's a lot of traffic in Germany because Germans drive places and have money.
They have money, yeah.
Italians have no money, don't go anywhere.
Autostrada
and
are toll roads usually.
Autostrada are toll roads, so you have to pay to use them. No one is on them. They are smooth as
So
glass, and there is no enforcement. The highest speeds I have seen in Europe, top 20, have all been on the Autostrada, not the German
and have
Autobahn.
all been in medium trim level, whatever.
Well,
Yeah.
I have the
They're not doing
correct
enough
answer
for
to your question is that the Mille Miglia takes place in Italy, and driving a car in the Mille Miglia for a road trip, a vintage Ferrari popping and cracking.
It
away
would
with
be
its
cool.
carburetors.
I agree. Would be
Be
cool.
the dream. Or what Harry Metcalf did with the when he drove the 550 Barchetta on the Ferrari equivalent that follows the Mille Miglia. That is the dream.
That is cool. I agree, but like not for like a trip. I don't want my.
I think
That's
the
a
answer
trip.
is a G-Wagon Cabrio and go on a true
Nah, you need a
grand
stick.
tour.
Or my 395. Good choices.
Okay, next up, we will move on to questions. Now, remember, you may submit questions to us. If you go to carsandbids.com, click on the community tab, we have a post that has questions, and we will answer the
week.
highest upvoted questions, or the most liked, or the most interesting. All of those, honestly. We're answering pretty
Make
much
sure
all.
you find the right post for the right week.
Find the right post, and we will post and answer questions. So, we will begin with the first question from Rise and Legacy to Kenan. How's Emily?
She's wonderful. Next.
Emily is Kennan's fake wife.
Yes,
one of his fake wives.
Yes, I have not. To be clear, there's no Emily in my life. I've been asked this question a million times since that video.
Wow. I'm sorry if you're friends with Kenan and your name is Emily.
Kenan was kicked out of his place by his wife, and he's sleeping in the office.
Doug loves to perpetuate this narrative, and I don't understand why. He just thinks it's like entertaining. He's building like this addition. He's like, one day when you get kicked out, you'll come stay with me, and then we'll be like, oh, Kenan, you're looking for a new place, yeah? I don't know why he likes the struggle. He wants to see me struggle.
No, I just think that I honestly I think that someone should be living in the office. We have a shower, we have a kitchen.
Makes no sense as it is an office.
It's insane that someone isn't living
Please,
here.
nobody live in our office.
All right, I would love if Filippo would ever get a bed, I would live in the office.
There is a bed frame over there.
Don't
All
tell
right,
him.
set it up, and I'll move in.
Don't worry,
There's
it's
no
manual
mattress.
labor. He won't do it.
I won't. Yeah, I won't. Okay, next question, actual question from Prancing Meese.
Oh.
What car modifications could I bring to a Cars and Coffee that would piss off the most people? I've thought about this at great length. Do you have an answer?
I do not. Please go ahead.
Kenan. The answer is a train horn.
Oh. Yeah, train horn would
People
do it.
do that,
Yeah.
and boy, is it annoying. But I think the question is more along the lines of what would make car enthusiast purists
I think
angry.
The over catch-all category is something really poorly done. We were talking in a
That's so
in a
true.
prior, like to get to the extreme of that. We did when you owned a Hummer, we did a hypermiling challenge, which included putting boxes along the side
Yeah.
of it.
Era.
You show up to Cars Coffee and that just looks bad.
Yeah.
It's
People
like just
don't
shitty.
like car enthusiasts hate when stuff is like spray painting paint.
Right.
If you did spray paint
Or
on the
Plasti
exterior-
Dip now.
Even more than that, I think the one that demonstrates it all was the Car Bros Fieri, because they took that to Monterey and just drive
that
around
looked
like
cool.
No,
Doesn't
people were not happy. Some people were happy. Some people got it. A lot of people didn't, and were just like, you remember them just driving down Kenner Road.
And I think the point stands that something
badly
poorly
done.
Yeah.
Any mod that is just really poorly done will just really upset the hell out of
Yeah.
people. If Kenan saw a very dirty car at Cars and Coffee, he would be very angry about that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Which is
you're
why
there
I
to
don't drive
show
to Cars
your
and
car
Coffee.
off to people. I mean, if you are there to look
Why
at it,
do you
only
think
get
I
a
don't
dirty
drive
car.
there?
Unless it
I always go with Doug.
unless it aids in like what the car is about. Like if I see an off-road that's dirty, that's cool. It's legit. But if
Right.
my car,
Right.
that's not acceptable.
Right.
There's a subreddit that's awful taste but great execution. That's acceptable.
Yeah,
you can have horrible taste.
If you do it well. But
Carefully,
I think
nicely.
if I showed up with a Camaro that I literally spray painted the paint,
That would
people
be
would be like, "What the
upsetting.
hell? What is this? What'd you
Yeah.
do to this thing?
Do your
Why'd you mess this
modifications
thing
well.
up?
Yeah.
Do your mods well.
Do your mods well."
And clean your car.
Especially if it's a
according to Kevin.
dedicated community, that'll really upset
Yeah.
them.
Okay, here's a great question from Abracadabra P911.
Ooh.
How do you think the Cybertruck will age when it's 10 plus years old?
Poorly.
I saw yesterday
Oh.
an
10-year-old
H2. Perhaps you saw this too. An H because we were driving to the same place. A bright yellow H2 with yellow wheels and a giant like roof thing and like a spare tire, yellow spare tire carrier. And I was thinking to myself, that's the Cybertruck in 20 years.
You're 100% right.
Yeah,
You're 100% right.
I don't disagree. That said, there is surprising demand for the H2. Like they sell relatively well. on
they're
our
worth
site.
money, but not.
But I think, you got a point. It is kind of a meme, and right now
Right.
it's cool. As with many things, it's cool now. It will go through a period where it is very much uncool.
The
And
coolest
kind of
stuff doesn't have a peak where it's just the coolest thing in the world. Like the coolest, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like the coolest stuff kind of just stays at this level of cool. And sometimes you don't have the coolest thing, but that thing will eventually lose its allure, which happened with the H. I mean, you could name 100 cars.
The
that's happened.
H2 is the Cybertruck. It was so popular when it came out.
Yeah, that's true.
People thought it looked insane, but was practical enough. Had fast windows.
It did actually. That's true.
And like it was a Tahoe. Like it was acceptable. You could drive it around. It was
Yeah.
okay. But it looked cool. But then it aged quickly.
Yeah.
And I think that is the Cybertruck.
Well, also
Better
all
than you
Hummers
expected it
up
to
to
be.
that point were military grade stuff, and then they did the H1. But that was like the first civilian.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
makes
it
sense.
made it cool, and it was the thing to be seen in back then. If you
about
go
2
on
years,
a lot of the, I mean, the
2006.
celebrity cars Instagram shut down, but like if you go on a lot of those celebrity car sites pages from then, a lot of celebs were driving around in H2s.
and then 08 happened.
I think that the Cybertruck, the thing that it's so hot now, but that style. Once we've familiarized ourselves with the design and it has started to get old for us,
Also,
gonna be pretty.
there are some concerns about how the stainless steel exoskeleton will age. In addition to like
Why do
the
people
culture.
say that? Why do people say that?
Because it won't be taken care of correctly. There's like a different maintenance. It's like
I don't
early
know
matte
anything
paint.
about anything. Okay.
You know,
but
everybody-
I'm gonna
I mean,
posit-
sorry. Can we just make sure we clip that, please?
But I'm going to posit.
Send it to
something.
me.
I'm going to posit something. Stainless steel.
Your refrigerator's made out of it.
My refrigerator, it's got to be 15 years old. Looks great.
Does your refrigerator drive around?
Okay. The DeLorean was stainless steel. You see them around, they look great.
Only because the ones you see around have had
That's not true.
years of meticulous care.
We had
No,
one-
you're right, dude. The DeLorean is a car that is known for people taking meticulous care for it for a long time.
The ones you see
And
driving
they-
around now, yes.
And there certainly wasn't a period where they were selling for $3,000 and sitting in fields.
the
I
ones-
agree that there will
they're
be
not
a
driving
higher
around.
level of care applied to a DeLorean compared to a Cybertruck. However, I don't disagree. I have seen some beat DeLoreans, and they still look.
They
pretty
still
good.
look okay. I
And
think
you know that
I
skill
think this
is
whole
You're not wrong.
Cybertruck thing is much ado about nothing. I think it's gonna physically look good. I just think the design is gonna age quite poorly.
Yeah.
And people are gonna say, well, the Countach. What about the Countach? That didn't age poorly. That they made 1,900 of those for the planet. Cybertruck is gonna be one
And
of these
also
things we
anniversaries
see.
may have aged poorly.
Anniversaries age poorly. Yeah.
Which is just a straighter version of that.
Straighter. We like them straight. Okay. Next question. So we're all in agreement about this. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next question.
That is correct.
Okay, next question. If the recession from Renat _3UZ_lover.
Wait, sorry. It's his recession.
If the recession started today and Stellantis had to shut down some of their car brands, which brand would it be? Chrysler, which produces nothing.
Yeah, seems
There
like an
is
easy
a
one.
single Chrysler model for sale right now, right? The Pacifica.
Pacifica. Yeah. I mean, you gotta imagine.
And they can't be selling that many. Of them.
They could just rename it the Caravan and we'd all be good. And by
They
the
probably
way,
still have badges
by the way,
left over
I have a
that say
theory
that.
here. They could just consolidate it all to two brands, Dodge and Jeep. That's it. The Ram brand is stupid.
I think they should consolidate to Plymouth and Jeep.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
The Ram brand is stupid.
Yep.
The SRT brand is, I think, dead. The
The
Chrysler.
SRT brand was never its own brand.
It was. They tried to make the final Viper. They tried to.
Oh,
call it
that's
just
right.
The SRT Viper.
That's right.
but
yeah.
no, but that was one car.
Yeah, it was just one car. But if it had been successful, they
Do
would
you
have
think?
taken it further.
Do you think that Fiat should exist? Lancia should exist?
No. Well, Lancia is just rebadged Chryslers already.
Right. But they're
Fiat-
relaunching their new
No, Fiat.
only
I'll
new
let them
car in
keep Fiat,
3
but
decades.
only in Europe. I'll let them keep Fiat in Europe. In the States, that little Fiat 500e, which, by the way, they emailed me and they said they got a press car coming. Yeah, I know.
I'm excited. All the press, the initial reviews came out yesterday, and I read a couple.
Were they good?
They're exactly what you expect.
They should call that the Dodge Neon.
Oh,
In the States.
Now that's
Because there's
an
no
idea.
Fiat 500 like love here. Nobody cares about that car.
Everybody cares about this.
Oh, yeah, no, you're right. We all have
I mean,
our
I s-
Italian heritage.
You know,
I've
honestly,
seen. I saw
the-
a bunch of them today. So like.
No,
they're
no,
around.
there's a
500
new 500e.
I mean that there's
the new one.
They
Yeah,
don't
that's
have like a long hit. The reason
No.
they called it that is because it was a retro version of a car that was very popular in Europe in the
Yeah,
50s,
yeah,
just like the Volkswagen Beetle. Here, nobody has that connection to it.
Right. And the headlights look like they could be neon headlights.
Call it the neon.
There's
Boom.
like
I just solved all
lineage.
of and by the way, Ram is the stupidest thing ever. No one calls it Ram to this day.
No,
It's still Dodge Ram
It's
to everybody.
insane. It's deeply insane. What other brand? I feel like we're missing a brand or two.
No. Dodge.
Alpha.
Yeah, but that's not a thing either.
Yeah. They just revealed their new EV, but it's crossover, but it's only for Europe.
And so I've solved Chrysler's problems. Now, that leaves them without a luxury brand, but one could argue that they don't have one now and haven't ever. Okay, next question from 65 Shelby GT350.
Oh.
If you had to buy an electric car, this is a prize coming from 65 Shelby GT350. If you had to buy an electric car, which one and why? I would get a BMW. i5 Touring or
Doesn't
iX.
i5 Touring doesn't exist
That
yet.
or iX?
You would get an iX. M60i.
No. Yeah.
Do I have to pay for it?
No, yeah, not
Just
kinda.
like I can have it. I really like the Audi RS GT e-tron. I
that is a cool car.
think it's one of the most beautiful 4-door cars currently on
pretty.
sale.
So
they're also
long.
very underrated. Great performance.
Also, even if you did have to
well,
pay
I said
for
I don't want to pay for it because they're very expensive and the depreciation is brutal.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think they're really cool, and that'd probably be what I would get.
If I weren't paying, I think I'd probably get an R1S, like a well-spec'd R1S. If I were paying, like a
You
Ioniq
wouldn't
5.
get an R1S. It's too big. You would never do that. You would never do that.
I like
an
big
Ioniq
vehicles.
5?
I think so, like a nice 5N.
My answer's right. You wouldn't get an iX?
No,
you like
I,
the iX?
I do not like the iX.
Really? It's so cool.
As a human with eyes, I'm trying to think what I would actually buy. I'd buy the cheapest one that has the most range. Like I would actually optimize.
Buy the
for
cheapest one that has most range.
a Model Y or Model 3 becomes attractive. About now. I know.
Meanwhile, Ken and I are driving around RS e-tron GT and an i5. We're cool.
Yeah,
and
but
you
I'm
have
more
a
efficient.
Model 3. I don't care about that.
I do.
And that's our podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Is there any other parting shots?
Don't you want to go to another couple questions?
No.
Okay.
Is there any other parting words, thoughts, experiences?
Emily's fine.
Emily, killing it. She's gonna let Kenan back in, but someone should sleep in the office.
Congratulations.
Someone should
Thanks.
sleep in the office. Bye, everyone.